Hello, once more, and welcome back to the channel. Back here on YouTube, doing my week number 5 Big Ten predictions. After week 4, I went 8-1 last week, improving the record to 41-6. As you can see, the current record going into week 5 and beyond. Looking forward to the rest of the year. It's getting a little tougher now as we get into Big Ten play, where it might be a little bit harder for me to have a perfect week going forward the rest of the season, because conference play is always a hard part with this conference in Big Ten. There's always teams that win, and there's always teams that might lose when you pick them. Last week, Minnesota was one that hurt me last week, and they're the first game up this week. We'll talk about them in a minute. They lost in overtime to Northwestern, surprisingly. And the Northwestern is only projected to get one win this year, and they have 2 now. They're 2-2. We'll talk about all that and more this week. We only have 7 games on the schedule, so a small schedule size, but it's going to be a little tougher going forward the rest of the season to have a perfect week for me, I think. If you compare it to my Big Ten predictions, I'm doing much better in Big Ten compared to the NFL predictions. So maybe I'll stick to Big Ten predictions this year. As NFL predictions, I'll rebound on that. But it's Big Ten today. 7 games, let's get started, everyone. Sorry about that. Here we go, our first Big Ten matchup of the week. And see right there, Minnesota is going to be playing Louisiana this week. At home, Minnesota last week lost on the road at Northwestern, surprisingly in overtime. And so far, Minnesota's been one of those teams that when I predict them, they've performed pretty well for me in the predictions. And last week, a loss last week. Unfortunate for my situation, but this week, I'm taking Minnesota at home against Louisiana to get the win on Saturday afternoon, as I'm taking the Golden Gophers at home Saturday afternoon. Went on from there, inter-division Big Ten matchup between the Penn State Nittany Lions as they travel to Evanston, Illinois. The Northwestern Wildcats hosting this one against Penn State. Penn State last week against the Hawkeyes last week. I did predict Penn State would win, but I thought it was going to be a one-score game. Technically, you could say it was a one-score game because it only took them 1 score to beat Iowa last week, scoring a touchdown early on and winning 31-0 against Iowa. Unfortunately, this time Penn State, they look like they're going to be a top 10 team for the foreseeable future. The only question is, can they compete with Michigan and Ohio State? Yes, I think they can, but those are the 2 teams they lost to last year. There might be another team that's competing with Penn State to beat Ohio State and Michigan. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But Penn State going into Northwestern, I think Penn State's going to get an easy win on the road here this week at Evanston. At Northwestern on the road, up in Evanston, Illinois, just north of me, about an hour and a half away. So, yeah, I think Penn State's going to continue their run. They go 5-0, I think. And they're going to continue their run in the Big Ten as they win this week on the road. Moving on to the next matchup in the Big Ten West. In the Big Ten West this week, after a loss at home last week on last Friday for the Purdue Boilermakers against Wisconsin, they host the Illinois Fighting Illini this week. Illinois, one of those teams in the Big Ten that's pretty good. They've won 3 games out of the first 4. And they're only lost to Kansas so far. They lost to Kansas. But this week it's a Big Ten matchup where you're talking about 2 teams. It could be a matchup where both of these teams' winner controls their slate in the Big Ten. Purdue was a team that won the Big Ten West last year. Illinois wants to be that team that will win a Big Ten West. And I think Purdue playing at home this week has the advantage. After losing to Wisconsin, Purdue has to get back on track. This week they're 2-2. Illinois comes in at 3-1. And surprisingly, I'm gonna go with the home team, Purdue Boilermakers, to get the win and give Illinois their second loss of the season with a home win after losing to Wisconsin last Friday. I believe Purdue was going to keep this one close. I believe they get the win this week. So Purdue's going to get the win, I think, at home against Illinois on Saturday afternoon in the Big Ten West and pull in front of Illinois in the division standings, hopefully, with a win. Move on to our next matchup. Big Ten East. Indiana Hoosiers coming into this matchup against Maryland. Last week, Indiana had a game that went to overtime against who they played? Toledo. No, Akron. They had a game against Akron last week. Indiana did. They won 22-9 to 27, and they won in overtime, by the way. This week it's Maryland. They have to travel to Maryland, who's 4-0. And this is the other team in the Big Ten East I'm talking about. Besides Penn State, that wants to meet with Ohio State and Michigan. With quarterback in Talia Tagovailoa, who's going to be their starter, who's their starting quarterback, who's a pretty good quarterback, can run the ball, pass. They can do everything with him. Maryland looks like one of those teams in the Big Ten East that looks like they want to be. Looks like Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Can they keep up with that? If you look at Maryland, their first 4 games, all wins. And they're 4-0. And if they can continue winning these games, they're going to have some good games down the stretch. They're going to have to show that they really want to compete, and they've shown that so far. With a 4-0 record, Big Ten against Indiana comes in. Yeah, you just look at Maryland. They're Indiana this week. That's a 2:30 kickoff. Should be an easy win for Maryland, I think, to get a win this week. Because after this matchup, they have Ohio State next week, which will be a tougher matchup on the road. So yeah, I'm gonna take Maryland to get their 5th win and send them into their matchup against Ohio State 5-0 with a win. So they'll have a better record than Ohio State and going on the road next week. So I'm thinking Maryland to get the win this week against Indiana to go 5-0 for the Maryland Terps. Moving on, Big Ten West. Inter-division matchup. Crossover game coming up. For this one, we have to go to Nebraska. The 2-2 Nebraska Cornhuskers coming in against the Michigan Wolverines, who come in at 4-0. Again, another matchup where 2 teams in the Big Ten come in at 4-0. Michigan, the back-to-back Big Ten champions. We predict them to win here on the channel the last 4 weeks. I'm going to continue that trend because Nebraska's playing at home, and Michigan, they've won the Big Ten the last 2 seasons. I think Michigan continues their streak, goes 5-0, making themselves tied for first with Maryland in the Big Ten East and Penn State. And this leaves Ohio State with a bye week, with now to win this week. So you'll have 3 teams at the top of the Big Ten East, I think, at the end of this week, and that will be 5-0. Michigan, they can do it all, and they're getting their head coach. They're going to get their game going this week. Nebraska, unfortunately, I think is going to be one of those teams in the Big Ten West this year. They're going to have a hard time under Matt Rule. He's their first-year head coach. He's going to have a hard time trying to figure out what to do with his team and what to do with his players. But I think Michigan gets the key win to go 5-0 this week against Nebraska, as the Michigan Wolverines will continue the run in the Big Ten East and stay 5-0. Moving on to our last game of the night. Our second to last game of the night. We have to go to the birthplace of college football, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Coming in as a take on Wagner, FCS team, I guess you could call them. Look at Rutgers the last few weeks. They've been doing good. They lost last week 31-7 at Michigan. They kept that game against Michigan last week pretty close in the first quarter. Kept it 7. Had a 7-7 tie. Other than the first quarter, I noticed last week. Pretty close. But this week they're coming in at 3-1. Rutgers coming in a night game this week. Late after night game, they should be able to get the win at home. I think they get a 4-1 this week at least. Continue their season with a good record. And Rutgers, this is going to the start of them. If they get this 4th win this week and they win it, they're going to be set up nicely to at least, they need to win at least 2 more to become bowl eligible, which they should, I think. And I think Rutgers will get the job done this week by scoring over 30 points against Wagner. I don't know how good this Wagner team is. I don't know much about them, but I think Rutgers gets the win this week in the Big Ten East and continues the winning ways in 4-1 after losing to Michigan. Moving on to our last game of the night. For our last game of the night, we have to go to the Big Ten East and West. Another crossover game in the Big Ten. Michigan State Spartans, after firing their head coach Mel Tucker because of sexual harassment. And Iowa this week. The Hawkeyes, my Hawkeyes, coming in after losing big 31-0 to Penn State. Now let's talk about this matchup real quick. This matchup, the last time these 2 teams met, was in 2020. Iowa got the win that year. And the 2 teams haven't met since. But I'll just say this: Michigan State and Iowa. This has become one of those matchups where it's becoming it's kind of a second rivalry. Like last week I said Penn State. I saw a story back in the summer when I told you that Penn State and Iowa is now a rivalry in the Big Ten. This is also maybe another rivalry between these two teams because they've had close games over the years. One of them will win. They win some, they lose some. It's been close games. I think Iowa, playing at home this weekend, will bounce back from a 31-0 loss. I think they score. Michigan State with an interim head coach. I don't know how good they're going to be the rest of the year. They only have 2 losses. They lost big time to Maryland last week at home. But I think the Hawkeyes bounce back, get to 4-1, win their second Big Ten game win their first Big Ten game of the season, and they go 1-1 against the Big Ten East on the year with one Big Ten East game remaining against Rutgers, which will be next month. I think Iowa gets to win this week to go with a 4-1, and that's what I think what happens because Michigan State, I don't know what's going to happen now the rest of the year with an interim head coach. So I'm taking the Hawkeyes to get the win this week finally. Not sure how many they're going to get after giving up 31 last week. They played pretty good, though. They've got some points for themselves, 42 a few weeks ago. Then they haven't scored since. With that being said, that's the Big Ten prediction video for Week 5. Quick recap who I'm picking once more. Starting out in Minneapolis, picking Minnesota going Gophers over Louisiana. After that, I'm going to Northwestern. I'm taking the Penn State Nittany Lions over Northwestern. In West Lafayette at Purdue, taking Purdue over Illinois and the rivalry. In Maryland, I'm taking Maryland over Indiana. Maryland's going to go 5-0 surprisingly as well this week. After that, in Nebraska and Lincoln, taking the Michigan Wolverines to go 5-0 as well over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. From there, I'm taking Rutgers over Wagner. And then on the Saturday night slate, and the Saturday night game of the week, on NBC and Peacock, I'm taking the Hawkeyes over Michigan State for the win to go 4-1 after losing 31-0 to Penn State last week. With that being said, that's the Big Ten prediction videos for Week 5. Please comment below who your favorite Big Ten team is playing and if you think they're going to win. And with that being said, I hope everyone has a nice day and stays safe. With that being said, please remember to watch, like, subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends to do the same if they have not done so already. And also don't forget to hit that notification button below so you know when I upload a new video up here on the channel. And with that being said, have a nice day, stay safe, and peace out. And I will see you right back here next week on Thursday with our Week 6 Big Ten predictions next week on Thursday. Stay tuned, stay safe, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Big Ten prediction, enjoy the Big Ten games. If you're a Big Ten fan, if you're not a Big Ten fan, enjoy your favorite college football team play this week. Have a nice day, stay safe, and peace out. Bye for now, everyone. Bye, everyone.